it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is Thirst Quencher, making cards that feature a beverage. So I'm going to make this stacked teacup pop-up card. You can see it's got 3 teacups kind of going at different angles. There's motion on those teacups. You can see how they move as the card opens and closes. And then because I needed a thank you card, I added a mini gift bag down here that will hold a gift card. Now this could obviously be used for any theme. For the pop-up and primary decorations, I used 3 dies. I used the tea and coffee pop-up, the tea and coffee borders, and the mini pops pop-up. Then I used 4 additional dies to complete my decoration as a thank you card and gift card holder. First up, let's look at how I styled the teacups. I started with a medium weight smooth white cardstock and cut 3 teacups and 3 saucers using the tea and coffee pop-up die set. Then I chose 3 colors of ink. I decided to use some Distress Oxide, Fossilized Amber, and Broken China, and then just a black. In my case, I grabbed a Memento, but it wouldn't matter what black. Then I'm going to ink up a brayer really good and just roll some color onto those 2 pieces. Now, what's nice about those pieces is that they have deep score lines. So those deep score lines are not going to pick up the ink, and then you're going to be left with a really nice white crisp line everywhere that there's a deep score line. Then I'll do the same with the teacup. So just rolling on some color. You know, you can use a pretty good amount of pressure on that brayer to get the ink onto the piece too, because like I said, those deep score lines are not going to pick up that ink. Okay, now what I'm going to do is put that piece back into the die again, and then I'm going to run it through my machine with an embossing sandwich. All of the major die cutting machines have the ability to emboss a wafer thin die. You just may need to go onto YouTube and look up what the sandwich parts are for your particular machine. For my Spellbinders Platinum 6, I put the die face up on the platform with the paper in the die. Then I add that squishy mat and the embossing mat and roll it through. Now I have that raised embossed pattern on the teacup, and then to really bring it out, I'm going to sand off the ink. For a tool, I'm just using a fingernail filing block, but you could use an emery board, you could use a sanding block, you could use sandpaper, it doesn't really matter. So just another fun way to style the teacups for a little bit different look. So cleaning my brayer between colors, I then made 2 more teacups and saucers using the blue ink and the black ink. And I just wanted to show that you can also kind of bend the piece and use an emery board if that's easier. I want to stack my saucers, so I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and just cut along that lip for the front face of each saucer. By making those cuts, I'm able to tuck the saucers into each other to give them a more realistic stacked look. And then I'll tuck one of the teacups into the top saucer. So I made sure the saucers were a little bit, crooked because I wanted that look. And now what I want to do is take this piece and seal it all together. So I'm just going to go on the back and take some glue and go between the layers to seal those together. Now I like LINECO neutral pH adhesive in our fine tip bottles. We do sell both of those items on our website. I'm making a 5x6 top fold card. So I started with a piece of cardstock, 5 inches wide by 12 inches long, scored in the center for folding. And then to that, I added some pretty pieces of a Stamperia paper that I found in my stash. I die cut the pop-up mechanism that comes included in the tea and coffee pop-up twice because I want to extend it and make it a little taller. So the first thing I'm going to do is just fold the upper platform in the usual manner, which means I fold towards myself on the first horizontal fold. Then I grab the little cut area and I fold it on that diagonal line in both directions. So I'm just folding through 2 layers to train those diagonal folds. Then I bring it back to where I started, and from behind the piece, I just pop it so that it will come into the piece as it closes. So now I have trained the motion platform that sits on top of the pop-up box, and there's 2 more horizontal folds in the piece that create the box itself, and those fold away from me. Now I'm not going to fold the tapered tab one under, and that's just because I want to stack this on top of a second one to make it taller. So for the second platform, I'm only using the tapered tab. Now I happen to choose a pretty heavy cardstock, not because it needed to be, just because that's what I was using for the card. So I'm going to use a bone folder just to get a crisper fold. Okay, so now I'm going to take these 2 platforms and just glue them to each other. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just lengthening the height. So I'm giving it some extra height so that it can hold 2 stacked teacups. So see, I'm basically adding the distance between the folds as an extra bit of height by gluing two of them together. All right, so adhesive all over the back of the upper one, and then I'm just going to bring the fold to the end and glue those two together. Okay, and now I have the same pop-up mechanism, it's just been made a little taller. Installing this mechanism in the card will be as usual, which means I put the tapered tab glued down to the floor of the card, butted up to the fold, and that can go anywhere along the fold, but I've decided just to center it. So I'm just kind of looking at my grid to get an idea of the approximate center. And what I want to do is I want to bring the end of that tapered tab right up to the fold of the card, and I'm just looking to make sure that it looks straight. Okay, now the tapered tab is glued inside the card, and now I want to find the flat position for the other end of the pop-up. And so that means that it's kind of accordion folded down into that flat position. So that's the flat position of the pop-up that I'm going to add my adhesive all over the top section. I'm just avoiding the cutout. Just get that a little closer. So now I have adhesive on top of that sort of accordion folded down bit of the pop-up, and then I just close the card against the exposed adhesive. And that will attach it to the back wall in exactly the right spot to be able to pop up and fold down. And you can see how generic that pop-up platform is. You really could use that to animate anything. So it doesn't always have to be coffee mugs and teacups. You can pull that pop-up out and use it for all sorts of cards. So my tall platform is going to hold my first two teacups. So the one that's sitting on the saucers is going to go on the front face of that pop-up. And then the little motion platform will hold my second teacup. So I just have to figure out which color I want in the center. And I think I'm going to do it like this. So the black one's going to be my center teacup. And now I need to attach to the back of the black one the spiral from the Mini Pops die set. So the spiral is going to attach to the back of the second teacup, and it will then hold the third teacup. So what I'm going to do is take my second teacup, which is the black one, and I'm going to flip it over so it's upside down, and I'm going to attach that spiral right kind of into that crook of the teacup right there. So to use a spiral pop-up, I use adhesive only on the center of the spiral. So it's just the center that's going to attach to the back of the teacup. Okay, and I want to make sure that that spiral can still expand because I'm using glue. So maybe a glue dot would have been better, but I decided to use glue. So I'm just going to hold that center while I kind of lift up the rest of the spiral and make sure that I haven't accidentally squished the glue out to where more of my spiral is glued down than just the center. But that's operating fine now. Okay, I'm going to use a pencil just to mark the end of the spiral because that's where the adhesive is going to go to attach it to the back of the card. But I cannot add the adhesive to it until I've got this in the card. So the teacup is going to attach to that motion platform at that angle right there. So I can use my first set to kind of get an idea of where that second teacup should go. And in fact, what I think I'm going to do is just temporarily attach my bottom teacups to the pop-up using just a strip of tape runner. And that way I can use that as a guide to get good placement on my second one, but I can still take it off when I'm, kind of trying to get in there and fiddle with the other two teacups. Okay, so now I can see where that second teacup is going to land in the open position, and that will help me get good placement on attaching it. So to attach it, I want adhesive on the front face of that motion platform. And then I've decided on a fun angle for that teacup. So I'm just going to go in there and attach that bottom left corner of the teacup to the pop-up. Okay, now I want to close the card to give it a really good press, but I need to make sure that I cover up that exposed tape runner that I put on the bottom platform so that I do not end up sticking my card closed. All right, so now I've got that motion teacup working, and I want to attach the spiral. What I can do to get access is just peel back the front of the card so that the card stays in the closed position while I add some adhesive where my pencil line was, which is out on the end of the spiral. And then in that closed position is how I want to attach the spiral to the back wall of the card. That is a very small connection point. So what I like to do is once the glue starts to set up, I reach in there and give it a really good press to make sure that it is well attached to the back wall of the card. Okay, so now as the card opens, the teacup's going to move and the spiral's going to open. And you can see that I've got a great face in there on that spiral to be able to attach my third teacup. Okay, so glue goes on the spiral. I wouldn't want to put the glue on the back of the yellow teacup because I only want it to be glued where the spiral is. So the glue definitely goes on the spiral. Then I take my yellow teacup and I'm just going to go in there and pinch it against that spiral, giving it a second to set up. Okay, so now I have those two teacups attached. You can see as I fold the card down, they're going to stay within the limits of the card, which is great. But then I get all sorts of fun motion and angles as the card opens. All right, and then to finish out the pop-up teacups, I'm going to remove my Post-it note. I definitely want a stronger adhesive than that tape runner that I had used temporarily, so I'm going to coat the whole front face of the pop-up with my glue, and then I'm going to grab that set of stacked saucers in teacup and attach it to the front face of the platform. So just a fun adaptation of the tea and coffee pop-up to make a stacked teacup motion card. Now, if you'd like to make a teacup card that isn't amped up with an extra pop-up, you can also just watch the assembly video for this die set, and I will link that at the end of this video and in the description box below. And there are some things that are covered in that video in greater detail, for instance, how to assemble the tea bag that comes in the set. So for my stacked teacup card, I assembled a tea bag in the usual manner, and then what I'm going to do is add adhesive to the front face of the bag and then attach it behind the yellow teacup. Now, I don't have a lot of room above the teacup in the card because I chose to make that 5x6 card. If I expanded out to a 5x7, I would have an extra room to have that be a little taller, but I'm fine with it being just a hint of the tea bag sticking up above the teacup. And then for the twine and the tab, I'm just going to weave that tab through the handle of the yellow teacup a couple of times and then just let the end dangle. So that'll just be kind of some additional fun motion in the card as it opens and closes. The pop-up set doesn't come with a tiny heart, but there is one in the tea and coffee borders that cuts 3 small hearts at the same time. And so what I've done is just add a double-sided adhesive tape to the back of my paper before die cutting so that I have little sticker hearts. And then what I'm going to do is add a sticker heart to both sides of that tab. Since it is just a dangling tab, that way if it gets flipped around, it looks great on both sides. The tea and coffee pop-up comes with a spoon die as well. So I've cut that out of gold mirror card. And then I can just attach those spoons anywhere on the pop-up, just making sure I choose locations where they will stay in the card in the closed position. So I've decided on attaching one to my second teacup, but with kind of the end of the spoon in the first teacup. And then I'm going to do something similar and attach one to the yellow teacup so that the end of the spoon is kind of sticking into the black teacup. And I just have to make sure that I choose a spot where it will be hidden by the card when the card is closed. So a card like this could be decorated as a top fold card, or it could be decorated as a bottom fold card. So with a bottom fold card, I'd probably add something like a closure at the top, so that it kind of made more sense. But with a bottom fold card, you can really see the motion as it happens because your vision isn't blocked by the card opening. So with a top fold card, you open it and then bam, it's already popped up. Now, I like that for this card, but you could definitely explore doing it as a bottom fold card if you prefer to be able to see that motion as it happens. I assembled a mini gift bag using the leftover pattern paper. And what I like about that die set is that it collapses down like a typical grocery sack and it holds a gift card perfectly. So by using it as a gift card pouch inside a card in that closed position, then it kind of pops up a little bit on its own. So that's kind of a fun look. Now I'm going to be using this upside down and I'm not going to be adding any ribbon through the holes. So I took the circle die out of that set and I cut another teacup. So I styled a black teacup just like the ones that were stacked and then just used that circle die to cut out the damask pattern on it and then just kind of trimmed it so that it would fit right over those holes and become kind of a decorative piece. And then for my main greeting, I used our thank you die set, which I die cut twice, one side of yellow, one side of black, and then just offset them a little bit to make that drop shadow. And then I'm just going to attach that thank you to the front of that mini gift bag. Then I styled a yellow teacup, the same as my stacked ones, and just took the damask section out of the middle and cut it into 2 thin stripes. As a place to sign the card, I layered the 2 circles out of the mini gift bag and then added my final little self-adhesive heart. Okay, for attaching the mini gift bag to the card, I'm only going to use adhesive in the folded up section underneath, and that way it'll have a little bit of lift to it in the card. Now before I glue that down, I probably want to put my gift card in just to make sure that I place that bag high enough to where the gift card isn't going to obscure where I'm signing the card. So just kind of looking to center that and have it be in a good location. And then I'm just going to press that to the card. So you can see it kind of pops up on its own, but it'll still flatten with the card. Now I may think that that is actually a little bit too popped up, although it will flatten down after it's mailed. But I think what I'm going to do is just add a little miniature glue dot in the center section to kind of keep that down. And then the last thing for the card's interior is just to glue down my yellow stripes on either side of the bag. Okay, I'm going to call that good for the inside of the card. So just a great little stacked teacup pop-up card. You can imagine that that could really be used for any theme. I always design the inside of my pop-up cards first, and then what I do is I just take whatever leftover materials I have and I create a simple lead-in for the front of the card with kind of a nod to what you're going to see on the inside. So in this case, some layered circles from those Crosshatch circles, but then also mixed in with the circles from the mini gift bag just to make a layered circle set. And then I kind of duplicated the look of the stacked teacups by using the small teacups and saucers that come from the Tea and Coffee Borders set. And then for the first half of the greeting, so popping up to say, I got that from our word set 4. With our small word sets, it's very easy to bend those words to fit a shape. So in this case, my circle. And I was working on a piece of cardstock that was just a little bit smaller than the card itself. So now I can just glue that to the front for a thin black border. One thing I always like to check with my top fold cards is whether or not it ends up being a little back heavy because of the front decoration. So in other words, if it just always falls on its back, then what I would do is just add another panel of cardstock to the back of the card for balance. But I guess because of the gift card and because of the decorations of the thank you section, it has plenty of weight and it's staying open nicely. So then I can save that extra cardstock and the weight of mailing it. For envelope size, I would suggest an A7, which fits a 5x7 card. Now, because I added the twine and the mini gift bag inside, my card is a little thicker. It obviously doesn't bend very easily. So for this one, I'm in the United States, I would use the non-machinable stamp. You can go on the USPS website and order the stamps that say non-machinable surcharge. And those I've had great success with. So I haven't had any of my thicker pop-up cards come back if I use that non-machinable stamp. What I love about crafting with dies is that I am always in control of the colors and the styling. So I really went with a more artsy, kind of elegant look for this card, but you can definitely picture how cute this would be, those stacked teacups, in maybe some bright, fun, whimsical colors, or you could put floral styling on it. So you really can take this technique and just run with it. That's the whole idea of these designer challenge videos, is just to spark an idea and see where your creativity takes you. If you check the description box below, you will find a link to the blog post. And on the blog post, you will find photographs of my card, as well as links to all of the wonderful thirst quencher inspiration by our very talented design team. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can purchase these dies, as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.